Okay, we are going to start Chapter 14, Endocrine, Nutritional, Metabolic Disease. The biggest thing from this chapter that we're going to learn about is how to code diabetes. Okay, with diabetes, we've had certain rule changes with that, so we're just going to kind of go through and talk about that. So let's just, again, a little background. You have this in A&P. It's a chronic disorder impaired by carbohydrate, protein, and fat metabolism. So it's caused either by an absolute decrease on how much insulin secreted by the pancreas or reduction in the biological effectiveness of the insulin. So again, we have just different types. So what we are looking at here is the type of diabetes, the body system affected, complications. Again, you're going to assign as many codes as you can. It's not required that diabetes and any associated conditions be listed together in the medical record. So again, you may have to look for different notes in the chart. Okay. With diabetes, you're going to see with guideline does not apply to not elsewhere. All right, or due to. So here's our code. We are looking at E codes. Okay, we're in that section here. Pre-diabetes, this is for borderline. Pre-diabetes, these are going to be an R73 code. Major types, we have type 1, type 2, secondary, and we're going to get into them. One thing to remember is that whether or not the patient's on insulin, this does not indicate the type. Back coding long time ago, it did, but not anymore. The other big important note for this section, default, E11, type 2 diabetes, when that type is not documented. We are going to always default to E11, type 2. Okay, so if they're not telling us it's type 1, type 2, secondary, we again defer back to E11. Okay, just different types that we have. The other big coding thing here is our Z code, Z79.4, long-term use of insulin. Okay, so with that, if a patient's been on insulin for long term, you're going to add that Z code. All right, we get into E11. Okay, so again, it has to, insulin's produced, but insufficient quantity, or the body is unable to utilize it. So this is going to be different codes for E11, and you could be adding the Z79 code. Secondary, this could be by another condition or event. So when coding diabetes, make sure you look in your book and don't go to secondary automatically, okay? Make sure you know where you're at in the book. So with this, it's the underlying condition. It could be because of a drug that they're on, an infection that causes secondary diabetes. So keep that in mind. Okay, we talked about the Z code. Diabetes type 1.5 is E13. So this is an autoimmune diabetes of adults. Okay, we have complication, manifestation diabetes. Metabolic, just read through those. Chronic, renal. Okay, and with these could be 0.21 for diabetic neuropathy, kidney disease, kidney complications. Again, just make sure you look at the whole scenario and go as far as you can code. We have eye disease, neurological, circulatory, ulcers. Once again, like I said, with these, I just kind of wanted to get into just a few points. Gestational diabetes is one of them. Okay, so keep in mind, if a patient has gestational diabetes, you're going to code 024.4. Okay, it's not an E code. Now, if they had diabetes before they got pregnant, yeah, then they're going to have the E code. Again, gestational diabetes usually goes away after the patient has the baby. Another thing, just because somebody has an abnormal glucose doesn't mean they have diabetes. You're going to put that O code down. And this could be, again, with the gestational diabetes. All right, so we have infant, mother with diabetes. We have glycemic and insulin reaction codes. glycemic due to a drug. You see those are going to be T codes in there from our table of drugs and chemicals. Overweight and obesity. Okay, now we're getting into our nutritional. Okay, so if you code an obesity code, you always want to look to see if they state what the body mass index is. And that's going to be a Z68 code for the BMI when known. So just keep that in mind. We have a fluid overload code, E87.7, cystic fibrosis, and tumor Elias syndrome. Again, these all have to deal with, just everything with diabetes. So just a couple other things, just a reminder for this tape is that E11, okay, is type 2 diabetes. If they don't state what type they have, we default to the E11, okay? So keep that in mind. That is pretty important right there. A lot of times it'll tell you type 1, type 2. All right, any questions, let me know.